Gardner Wright, member of the BDDC.
Kelly Meyer, member.
Frank Johnson, member of the BDDC.
John Lodovico, member of the BDDC.
Jennifer Harrison-Woods, chairperson, BDDC.
David DeVasio, legal counsel to the BDDC.
Tom Barnes, senior.
Okay, and unfortunately, Barbara Fontaine, who is a member, is not able to be with us tonight. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the special meeting, and as we've not yet circulated the minutes, we're going to pass that item. Next item on the agenda is written communications received by board members. Does anyone have anything they'd like to report?
I received a request from Mr. Collins of Bristol Press for the proposed amendment for Renaissance, the extension time, which I provided them with, in addition to a courtesy copy of tonight's agenda.
Anything else? Next item on the agenda is the opening of the meeting to members of the public who wish to be heard on any subject within the jurisdiction of the Bristol Downtown Development Corporation. Before we start with public comment, I just want to say what I'm sure you all know, but that is that this has been a controversial subject, a subject that has generated a lot of heated debate in and among the community, and we want to hear what everyone has to say. And to that end, we expect everyone to conduct themselves with the utmost dignity, respect, and courtesy for everyone else. Everyone here is entitled to their opinion. We want everyone to feel that they have the ability to express their opinion without fear of being ridiculed in any way, shape, or form. We would appreciate it if you would afford your fellow citizens that opportunity. And because there are so many of you here, and we're actually quite delighted to have this kind of participation, we haven't had this kind of participation yet, we are going to request that you all limit your comments to 3 minutes. And we'll give you a signal when your 3 minutes is about up. If you could do your best to try to keep your comments to within 3 minutes. And with that, I would actually ask for a motion from the board to approve what I'm going to read right now, which is the BDDC expects there to be significant interest from the public to participate, and in the interest of affording as many people as possible the opportunity to address the board, the public comment section of the agenda shall proceed as follows. Any individual or group may address the board concerning any subject within the jurisdiction of the BDDC. Each individual or group must sign in prior to speaking so the meeting can proceed in an orderly fashion. And again, there's a sign-in sheet on the table right in front. 3 minutes will be allotted for each speaker and a maximum of 3 hours of public comment. Each speaker will only be allowed to speak once in order to provide the maximum opportunity for all who wish to speak. The board will not engage in dialogue with members of the public or answer questions during the public comment portion of the agenda. Speakers must wait to be recognized by the chairperson before speaking. No violent behavior, harassment, or unruly conduct will be permitted and shall be grounds for summary termination by the chair of the individual's privilege to address the board. The chair reserves the right to adjourn the meeting to a later time and or date if improper conduct persists, and the chair may direct any public comments to the appropriate place on the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve that we conduct ourselves in that manner?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and that being said, I will also note that for those of you that do have comments about the proposal that has been submitted by Renaissance, the best party to address your questions, we want to hear your comments, but the best party to address your questions is Renaissance, and they are hosting a public forum on May 19th at Nucci's, where they will be available to answer all of the questions that you have about their proposal. The BDDC is not the party to be answering your specific questions concerning the content of their proposal. And with that, we will start with lucky number 1, Mr. Matt Zarell.
Matt Zarell, 299 Brook Street, Bristol, Connecticut. Thank you, Mr. Chairwoman and Board, for letting us giving us this opportunity to voice our opinions and concerns or positive comments or what have you. I'm a sales manager for a living. I used to be a marketing guy for years and years and years. I've written business plans and done 7-year financial projections. And the Renaissance document that you've very graciously got out in public view is, there's nothing good or bad about it. It's a marketing document and it has some financial projections in it. Now that we've had a little bit of a time to peruse it, I noticed a couple of things. And probably a lot of people in this room have kind of glanced over it, but there's in the back, bear with me, refer to the letter from Eastern Bank. Does give a couple of opportunistic statements about it, but the third bullet point, it says current assumptions for gross rents in the project are on a per square foot basis, slightly above the estimates provided by Zimmerman Volk Associates in its 2013 update. Our underwriting will likely assume that rents achieved by the project will be equivalent to the rents demonstrated in a market study. If you go to the assumptions that are being made, and I'm going to drill down to the cash flow statement in a minute, if you'd allow me to do that. The project team on page 19 is using a rent estimate of $1.85 a foot. That's not really a market estimate. If you have conversations with most of the people around town, you'll find out that you're going to have not a good likelihood of obtaining that. So let's say there's 100, 101 units, okay? I think maybe a more appropriate number, and I'm a layperson a little bit when it comes to this, so I'm an informed layperson, but let's use the Zillow estimate of 800 and, what's the exact number? Zillow says that in Bristol, you get about $875 a square foot, and, or 875 average rent, I'm sorry. So the study assumes, and by the way, Hartford County is about $1,200 average rent, and Farmington is $1,600 average rent, just for a quick frame of reference. All the numbers in the cash flow of the study that indicates about $100K of cash-on-cash return are based on $1.85 a square foot. If you boil down the 875 rent number from Zillow, you come up with like $1.35 a square foot. If we take $1.35 a square foot and apply it all the way down, you're going to get a loss of about $400K a year instead of a gain or return of $100K a year.
Mr. Zarrell, sorry, Mr. Zarrell, we're at 3 minutes. Can you wrap up, please?
And I really don't think it's fair to ask the taxpayers to subsidize that. And thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, sir. Next is Sean Ruiz.
Sean Ruiz, 53 Lancaster Road. I have a couple documents that I'd like to give to BDDC. One of them is the outstanding debt for the state of Connecticut. We're looking at over $81 billion in debt. Bonded debt is about $20 billion of that. This project will add to the bonded debt. There's state debt that's involved in this, and it's not part of the financial report. It's part of the infrastructure. If you look at the financial proposal, rather the project study for the report, it basically says they're required to work with the city to get funds for the infrastructure that's going to come from the state and the federal government. That's absent from the report. So it's a fallacy that there's only $6 million that Renaissance is asking from Bristol taxpayers, because we also pay state and federal taxes in this town. And that's the reason why Connecticut is the second most unfriendly state to do business in the whole country. This would be compounding to that, so that we can do housing. We need to concentrate our funds on something that's going to stimulate job growth. This is a long-term project. It's $6 million for just one building of one phase. How much is it going to be when the entire thing is bundled all together? How many buildings altogether are going to require $6 million of mezzanine financing, which, if anybody knows what mezzanine financing is, it's the most expensive capital that you can go after because it absorbs risk, but it actually shields the developer from a lot of the risk, and the taxpayers would be subsidizing that risk. There's a big turnout in this room. That's because this plan entitles certain people to benefit from the tax monies. Those people, some of these people in this room are just care about Bristol and haven't really investigated it, but some of the people in this room stand to benefit from it financially. If I could prove to everybody around town that this is going to cost them more than anybody else can develop, this room would be packed with people against this project. But it's not. But I do have over 100 signatures here. It's a proclamation. Everybody's door that I knocked on, except for very few people, over 90%, signed this proclamation. Whereas the downtown development project relies heavily on public debt to come to fruition, the Depot Square project was described to the citizens of Bristol as a private investment endeavor, and the development has few commercial business investors, therefore creating few employment opportunities. And whereas the development is predominantly housing, therefore it would be resolved, we the citizens of Bristol demand a public referendum prior to the city of Bristol moving forward with this project involving public land, subsidies, and public debt to ensure all residents are aware of the details and risks. I can tell you, I knock on the doors, nobody knows what's going on. People are getting our future tax revenues, and there's no guarantee. Nobody in this room has a crystal ball to say that this is going to spur economic growth. People are stealing my signs around town. I have to assume that these are interested parties. Here's some pictures of the signs.
Mr.
I'm not
Burrows,
going to give.
we're at 3 minutes.
Okay.
Wrap up. Thank you.
I'm done. I'm just going to give you some information. I said what I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. James Levins.
James Levins, 88 Old Turnpike Road in Bristol. Thank you for letting me speak. I lived in Bristol all my life. I've seen redevelopment in the 60s and saw how successful it was in moving the retail hub of Bristol to the shopping malls on Route 6. Never to return to downtown Bristol again. I've seen many housing projects spring up in Bristol. Davis Drive, Union Street, Lake Avenue. Is this what you want? Do you want this to be your legacy that you approved for an apartment house in downtown Bristol? Renaissance Apartments will tax schools, police and fire protection, sewers, streets, and taxpayers' property tax. The decision this board makes will affect Bristol and its taxpayers for a long time, long after this board is gone. I'm asking you to reject this proposal by Renaissance. Give Bristol a chance to wait for something more appropriate to come. Why hurry so that we see an empty lot filled up with apartment houses? Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, Mr. Levins.